Hydo, and welcome to the Pantheon, the show where we have a look at a specific commander and pick the 5 best cards for them. Today we're going to be having a look at one half of the Strixhaven new dual-faced legendary creatures. And that card is going to be Kianne. Kianne? Dean of Substance, who weighs in at 3 mana. Very nice. You can get her in early and start generating some value. So let's have a look at her abilities. She taps to exile a top card of your library. If it's a land card, put it into your hand. Otherwise, put a study counter on it. Then, you can pay 4 and a green. Create a 0/0 green and blue fractal creature token. Put a 1/1 counter on it for each different mana value among non-land cards you own in exile with study counters on them. So, we can generate some nice little value early game and then generate a good beater late. She's also a 2/2, so we're not going to be winning with commander damage, but that's not really that big of an issue in this sort of deck. This is a really cool commander, and I like the fact that she's got so much value built into her. So, without further ado, let's have a look at the top cards for her. And at number 5, we've got Kiora Behemoth Beckoner. 3 mana for a Planeswalker, 7 loyalty, untap target permanent. And whenever a creature with power 4 or greater enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. So, why Kiora? First off, she can untap our commander, so we tap her, possibly get a land, possibly exile something else. Then we can untap her and do it again that same turn. Then, late game, if we've managed to get quite a few different mana costs exiled, every time one of our tokens comes into the battlefield, we're going to be drawing a card. Absolutely great value throughout the entire game. Really nice. To go along with this, we've got a couple of other untap effects. Kiora's follower is a 2 mana, a green and a blue, for a Merfolk 2/2. Untap another target permanent. Nice, simple, does exactly what you want. Generates ramp and also works very well with our commander. Fate Stitcher is a 4 mana 1/2 that you may tap or untap another permanent. And unearth for 1 blue, which means you can return it from your graveyard to play for that single turn. The fact that you can tap things as well is a great bit of interaction that you can use against your opponents. Finally, we've got Vizier of Tumbling Sands that has cycling. Best mechanic ever printed. 3 mana for a 1/3. Tap it, untap another target permanent. Then it has cycling, which means you discard the card, draw a card. When you cycle it, untap target permanent. So you can use it straight away if you draw it for the turn. Absolutely great and works very, very well with our commander. In at number 4, okay, we've got a couple of different unique mana costs. Like, we want to get a broad spectrum of mana costs in this deck, but we also want things that we can do early. Now, Spring to Mind is overall a 9 mana card because with these cards you combine the top half and the bottom half. So Spring, nice bit of ramp, is a sorcery. Search your library for a basic land card, put it into the battlefield taps, then shuffle your library. Then Mind, if we have a look over here, is a 6 mana instant with Aftermath, which you can only cast it from your graveyard, then exile it, draw 2 cards. Absolutely great bit of value, and if we happen to exile it, it's a 9 mana card, which is rather unique in Magic. To go along with this, we've got Commit to Memory. So Commit is a 4 mana instant. Put target spell or non-land permanent onto its owner's library, second from the top. Then Memory. Aftermath, so you only cast it from your graveyard. Each player shuffles his or her hand and graveyard into his or her library, then draws 7 cards. Overall, it's a 10 mana spell, so it's very, very good at all points. And if you wanted to commit your own thing and then exile it with your commander, you could do. I'm not really sure why you would, but it's possible that you might want to at some point. Dig Through Time is a 8 mana instant with Delve, so for each card you exile from your graveyard while casting a spell, it pays for 1 colorless. Look at the top 7 cards of your library, put 2 of them into your hand, the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. So while it is an 8 mana spell, generally you're not going to be casting it for 8 mana. Finally, Emrakul the Promised End is a 13 mana 13/13. Emrakul the Promised End costs 1 less to cast for each card type among cards in your graveyard. Bit of anti-synergy with Dig Through Time there, but, you know, it's a good cost reduction creature. Then he's got protection from instants, flying, trample, and when you cast him, you gain control target opponent during that player's next turn. After that turn, that player gets an extra turn. Really cool, can win games. Then Temporal Trespass is an 11 mana card with Delve. Take an extra turn after this one. Exile it. You know, extra turns are always fun. Cost reductions are always great. Mouth, which this is a very sort of token-based deck, is a very good card in that strategy. Mouth creates a 3/3 green hippo creature token, and then feed. Draw a card for each creature you control with power 3 or greater. So if we get our fractals up to be quite big, we can draw a ton of cards late game. Beanstalk Giant is very similar to our first card. 7 mana gets us a giant with power and toughness equal to the number of lands you control. That's okay, not really something we're interested in. But it has the Fertile Footsteps Sorcery Adventure attached to it, which is just search your library for a basic land, put it onto the battlefield, and then shuffle your library. Good little bit of ramp, but it costs 7 mana, and we can use it early game. Which brings us on to our third card, Mirri's Gail. So I talked about commit, maybe you want to commit, the right card onto the top, but generally we do want to be getting lands early game, late game, exiling sort of big spells. Mirri's Gail is great throughout the entire span of the game. For 1 green mana, you get an enchantment. During your upkeep, you may look at the top 3 cards of your library and put them back in any order. Works fantastically. It's just a simple effect that will keep generating values throughout the game. Similar to this, we've got another Aftermath cards. I've gone deep on these. Reason is 1 mana sorcery, scry 3. So again, we can manipulate the top 3 cards of our deck. Then Believe is a 5 mana sorcery. Look at the top card of your library. You may put it into the battlefield if it's a creature card. If you don't, put it into your hand. So, nice little bit of late game. We can maybe put an Emrakul in for 5 mana, cheat some mana there. And it's a 6 mana card for an effect that you can play early. Ponder, 1 mana. Look at the top 3 cards of your library, put them back in any order. You may shuffle your library, draw a card. So, if you don't shuffle your library, you can set up what you're going to be exiling with your commander. Alamir Depths is a nice little free version of this, and it enters the battlefield. Look at the top 3 cards, put them back in any order. Again, sets you up for your activation. Which brings us on to number 2. Jade Mage. So, the final bit of our commander is the fact that we can pay some mana to make some tokens. And this is a theme that I wanted to run throughout the entire deck. So, you want a bit of redundancy in that. Jade Mage is a 2 mana 2/1. Pay 3 mana, put a 1/1 green sapling creature token onto the battlefield. It is only a 1/1 where our commanders can be a lot bigger, but it's a recurable effect. We can pump this out, and the number 1 really helps with that. Similar to that, we've got Fairy Formation, who's a 5 mana 4/4, I think it is. Flying, pay 4 mana, create a 1/1 blue fairy creature token with flying, draw a card. So slightly more expensive, but cheaper than our commanders. But you do get to draw cards, and the token has some evasion. Ant Queen is a 5 mana 5/5, pay 2, put a 1/1 green insect creature token onto the battlefield. Again, excellent recurable token generator. Bramble Sovereign, slightly different axis. 4 mana for a 4/4. Whenever another non-token creature enters the battlefield, you may pay 2. If you do, that creature's controller creates a token that's a copy of that creature. So we can use it to help our, enemies if we want. Maybe make a friend, give them an extra solemn simulacrum. Or we can use it on our own creatures. As long as they're not legendary, we can have 2 copies of everything in the deck, which is pretty good. But why stop at 2 copies? With Doubling Season, which is a 5 mana enchantment, if an effect will create 1 or more tokens under your control, it creates twice that many tokens instead. If an effect will put that 1/1 counters onto something, or not just 1/1 counters, any counters, double that. Which is really, really good with our commander, because not only is it creating tokens, it's putting 1/1 counters onto tokens. So doubles both of those effects. Adrix and Nev, the twin casters, I think they are. Legendary merfolks for 4 mana, they're 2/2s. And if 1 or more tokens will be created under your control, twice that many tokens are created instead. Another nice little doubling effect. Finally, we've got Feral Invocation. This is going back to the interesting mana cost sort of section. It's a 9 mana sorcery with Convoke. So Convoke means that our creatures can be tapped to help pay for this. Now it puts 3/3 green beast tokens onto the battlefield, but it could potentially cost 0 mana. Sadly, this isn't an instant. If it was an instant, it'd be absolutely wonderful. You could maybe play Sprout Spawn or Sapling Spawning, whatever it is, the 2 mana instant from Future Sight that allows you to convoke out a 1/1 and then, buy it back for 3 mana. But this is a nice little card. It's big, it's flashy, it costs 9 mana, but it never really does. Brings us on to our number 1, and talking about reducing costs, we've got Biomancer's Familiar, a 2 mana 2/2 mutant. It reads, activated abilities of creatures you control cost 2 less to activate. This effect can't reduce the amount of mana an ability costs to activate to less than 1 mana. The next time a creature adapts, it adapts. It doesn't matter. That last bit does not matter for this deck, unless you want to run an adapt package. The main reason we're putting this in, our commander's ability costs 5 mana, so with this on the field, it only costs 3. And all of the previous effects that we showed in number 2, they're going to be reduced to 1 mana or potentially 2. Which, if you then have Training Grounds on the field, our commanders would be reduced to 1 mana, just a single green mana if we have both these effects. As Training Grounds is essentially the exact same ability, just on a 1 mana enchantment. Very expensive, but if you want this sort of effect, it's very, very cool. Hearthstone, the digital card game, is a 3 mana artifact that the cost of each creature's ability requiring an activation cost is reduced by 1. This cannot reduce the generic cost to less than 1. It is for every creature, so even our opponents work, so that is a major downside. But if you're big into the reductions, this is absolutely fantastic. Finally, we've got Earthcraft there, which is a very expensive 2 mana enchantment. Tap an untapped creature you control, untapped target basic land. So, if our commander's activated ability is reduced to just 1 mana, so we've got Training Grounds and Biomancer's Familiar in play, we can use our creature straight away to tap Earthcraft to untap a basic land, pay the 1 mana, make a token, and do this over and over and over again, create an absolutely colossal army of tokens. Very expensive, because both Earthcraft and Training Grounds at the moment are very, very expensive, but if you have those cards lying around or the budget to do that, really good with this commander. And that is all of the best cards for this commander. She's really, really cool, and card advantage is wonderful. The fact that you're getting lands each turn, or potentially just building up for late game, creating a large token army, absolutely great. And with that, I'm going to say goodbye. If you'd like to subscribe, please do. I'm going to be making tons more videos like this, and a new one for the other side of this commander is going to be coming out very soon. Thank you very much. Bye.